Today I will start with Mama Mel.
Good evening. Tonight, I'm a little more frazzled than I was last night, to be honest. Today was a day. But again, I am hopeful because I know that we're having these conversations. And like I said before, healing is the route to liberation. So I'm excited, even though I'm tired, but I'm excited and I'm glad to be here because after last night, I'm ready.
Shani.
So I actually resonate with you, Calvin. I do feel a lot lighter today. I think I'm just glad that the week is over and that I've been really looking forward to just some self care and just some intentional self care. And so that really means for me hot chocolate and watching, the new the something on Netflix and just talking with my family because I just really miss my family today. It just occurred to me as I was driving home, and so reconnection with family and also just Netflix and hot chocolate.
So Shani, can I just, before we move to Dr. Aycock, can I just, as an aside, so your mother is Karen Cully,
That's
and
right. That's right. That is
so we
Karen.
have not met. And this is like our first time meeting.
Yeah.
It's virtually. But
Yep.
I know your mother from years ago when I started my career at the University of Rochester, and she would
Yeah.
always talk about Shani and her daughters, and it's just like a full circle moment because it didn't dawn on me until yesterday, and I was like, this is Karen Shani, this is Shani. So it's a small community, and I'm glad to be. Ironically, I haven't touched base with Miss Karen Cully in a little bit, so I need to be connecting with both of you in person as soon as it's safe for us to do so. I'm
Absolutely.
really happy to connect through this. This is a great way to sort of reconnect. So hey, Miss Karen.
And you have just experienced a Rochester moment.
I
Right, a
mean,
family reunion moment, right?
yep. Interestingly enough, so she's a playwright herself. So this is also a moment in time that kind of makes me laugh a little bit, being like, okay, mom, okay. So
All her plays and listening and venting,
that's
and
right.
she went back to school, and I like feel like I know you all because of just us connecting when we worked at the University of Rochester. So, oh my goodness, what it's like a small community, right? It's like
Basically,
reconnecting.
basically.
So we won't go into the family
Anyway,
reunion moment tonight, right? We won't do that. We could, but we'll check in with Dr. Aycock. How are you feeling tonight?
I'm loving the reunion on here. The Rochester. I am actually tired. I am. I'm very tired. I am a lot lighter today than I was yesterday. But I am still in that emotional, stages. So I think this weekend I am going to relax, probably do some more reading. And I'm probably gonna binge watch some comedy just so I can have a belly laugh. So that's what I'm gonna do with my self-care. And you know what, Shani, I may actually, instead of doing a hot chocolate, I may do some green tea or peppermint tea with some
okay,
honey.
we're here for that. That's right. Yep.
Well, we love that, and since we're sort of moving in the spirit of talking about self care, and that's so important, I want to start off writing, segueing from this conversation. How do you like? What does self care mean for each of you? How do you self care, and why is it so important for us to normalize taking care of ourselves in really real ways? So those are my sort of three starting questions, and I'll open up the floor for whomever to begin the discussion of that because I really want us to anchor tonight around, the trauma, of course, and we discuss it, but a part of the Black experience is also self-care. And so let's get going here.
Okay, I'll go first. I'm sorry, y'all. Part of me, self-care for me means balance. right? I talk about all the time, self-care is more than mani-pedis and bath bombs, right? It's about achieving balance in your life. You can have a very full life and still have very good self-care as long as you maintain balance, as long as you maintain good boundaries. And self-care for me is putting myself on my to-do list regularly. I'm not good at it all the time, but I believe in it, right? And I do a lot of things for my self-care, like, and people laugh because a lot of times doing things for other people is part of my self-care. Like I love, like I'll cook. Like my kids are home from college, so I'm cooking like favorite foods, and I'm like, yes, 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 and it's self-care for me because it feeds me. So I mean, yeah, so it's about maintaining my balance.
Who'd like to go next?
Okay, I'll go. So I agree with that as far as balance. I kind of look at it as if you don't fill into yourself, you can't give to others. So you're consistently being empty because you're giving, 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 giving. And so it's important to take care of yourself. How do I do self-care? Sometimes I will dance around my house. I'll tell you know how I don't know if people still do that, but on Saturdays and you clean up and you listen to the oldies but goodies and you're jamming to Aretha and Patty and you just swear like you have a voice like Patty and really you don't. If you turn that off, everybody's like, oh Jesus, right? So I do that dance. I love to laugh and I love to have a belly laugh. Anybody who knows me knows I love laughing. Um, I have also learned how to be very comfortable with saying no. I am comfortable with saying no without justifying why I'm saying no. I'm also comfortable with setting up my boundaries and knowing that when my boundaries are not, when I'm coming out of my boundaries, I need to take care of myself. I also look at how much vacation time I have at work and I make sure that I use my vacation time. So those are some of the things that I do. And I am a firm believer that if you don't have a therapist, get a therapist. Even if you need that therapist just as a tune-up and you go see that therapist every 6 months, it's very important to take care of your self-care. Um, and yeah, and other stuff too that was in the chat. Um, but they definitely taking care of myself and my mind. I also like to write. And I'm not a playwright or anything like that, but I do like to keep a journal and I will jot down some things in that journal. And that helps me to, stay present. And then lastly, I will add this, I do pray. And so just having that spiritual connection is also good self-care for me.
Dr. Aycock, before we move to Shani, can you elaborate on for Black women who are watching this or who will watch this around that boundary of saying no? That's something that's very challenging for us as Black people, for Black women especially. We talked about yesterday, Mama Mel mentioned that Black women are the most disrespected, cohort of people in America. And some people feel like, or can be made to feel, or the oppressive system makes us feel like we don't have the privilege of saying no, right? So how have you navigated that in your career? I know that this is a really big question, but it really struck me because sometimes it feels like if I say no, then there may not be another opportunity, or it's weaponized for us, right? You have to say yes. What will they think of me? I still struggle with that. I've gotten a lot better with it personally, but I would love to hear from you how you have navigated that in the spaces of, especially when we're usually not at the table, at the decision-making table, and it can feel like if I say no to this, then I'll be closed out forever.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a deep, a deep question that you're asking because it is very important, and a lot of times doors can be closed because of that. So I have learned how to say no by practicing saying no with some of the small things. So I kind of, in a sense, it is sad that we have to do this, but I had to gradually condition people on how to treat me. And so gradually, when there's small projects, I would say, I really, I would love to do that project. Unfortunately, I don't have that time. However, if you take this off my plate, I can definitely take care of that project for you, when I'm at work. So it's being able to do that, but starting off with the small stuff. And then sometimes we have to do our own internal and find out, where's that no coming from? Is that no coming from because I don't feel, I feel like I have to take on everything? Is it coming on because somebody's communicated that I'm less than because I'm saying no? Am I putting on that superwoman black hero, hat that I need to now, deal with? So that as well. So those are some of the things, but it's a lot of practicing. But I would say for people, start off gradual, because if you say no too big, then of course, you may shun yourself for some things. And then also just remember what I said yesterday, you have to become uncomfortable in order to become comfortable. So the more you hear no and you say no, you become comfortable with that.
Shani, can you chime in? Go ahead, Mama Mel.
Calvin, I just got to say, because April said something that I want to make sure doesn't get lost. And it's about choosing you. Yesterday, we talked about choosing, that I choose me. I'm betting on me. I'm putting all my chips. Like, there's y'all too young to remember the movie. There used to be a movie called Passenger 57 with Wesley Snipes, and he said, always bet on black, right? But don't play me, Shani. But anyway,
okay, Mama.
It's like, because I know you 12, but anyway. But I say always bet on me. I will always bet on me, right? And it took a while to learn this, but something that Nina Simone said is get up from the table when love stops being served.
That's right.
And love is an action word.
Mm-hmm.
So if people are trying to push you beyond what you're able to do, get up from the table, because you've got to love you. Because like RuPaul says, if you can't love yourself, how can you can't love anybody else? And I'm done.
I saw that movie.
Yes,
no, I'm just playing.
Mama, I was 12 years old. Okay, so I was 12.
And you're still 12.
Okay, yep.
You will be in her eyes forever.
I know,
12.
I'm 40 years old, but anytime, Mama,
I'm 10 still.
I am 12. You're right. I'm totally 12. So yes, to all of this, I think one of the things I think it's been a bold action. It's been a bold action for me to lean into self-care, because you're right. You are constantly having to feel like you have to overperform, right, in order to, because you're seen as being an underachiever, or having to run really fast. And so one of the things is that I've been really doing is just really practicing gratitude. And like I have on my wall right now, I'm looking at it, it's just post-it notes of what I'm grateful for. And that's really kind of a vulnerable thing to say, but I've put all the things that I'm grateful for in there, and I add to it every week is something that I have. And it's just something that I'm grateful for, my cat and my Christmas tree, and just little things. And, then I build up on those things. And two, another part of that self-care is like, if I have a really good idea on, a strategic move for some initiative that I'm trying to spearhead, or, some PAB like action item or something like that, I'll put it on a post-it note and put it next to it and just say, and so I have intentions on that wall. I have, wishes and dreams on that wall. And one of those dreams is, like I just said, I like looking at systems and looking at how systems work and how to make them better, or build or tear them down or rebuild them. And so that I'm looking at it right now, it's old and crinkly from being up there for so long, but that's like 2 years old and it's still there. And I'm still seeing those things kind of manifest itself. So, self-care is just that, like, it's just a rebuilding, an exercise, a practice that I'm not necessarily used to doing for myself.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm putting a resource, I'll put it in, or maybe our behind the scenes support can put this resource in on our behalf. I read this year, The Unapologetic Guide to Black Mental Health, Navigate an Unequal System, Learn Tools for Emotional Wellness, and Get the Help You Deserve, by Dr. Rita Walker. So we can put that link for folks in the chat, but that was really helpful for me this year, especially navigating this pandemic, where in the beginning for me, it felt very much like, oh, wow, I have more time, right? Almost like we're not there's not the hustle and the bustle going here to there. And in the beginning, I was way over programming myself each day, back to back Zoom. And within like 3 weeks or so, I was drained and feeling like, okay, maybe this is not the right way to do this. And I think that for me, being someone who has lived with a disability for many years, this year really helped to reduce some of the background noise that I was hearing from peer pressure, that there is a certain way that we have to perform, that I have to perform in society. So, you know, work hours are 9 to 5. So if I'm not up at 9 and work until 5, 6 o'clock, then somehow there's inherently something wrong with me. And I really, this year really helped me to see like, no, like some days I don't start until noon or 1 because that's what I need. That's what is required for me to perform. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think I hope that if we can get a silver lining from this time period is that, you know, the world was able to adapt and bend more than the systems would tell us. You know, there's always this, no, we can't support that. We can't do that. You can't work from home. And then overnight the world stopped and you know, contentions were being made, things were being pushed through, funding was being reallocated in ways that we 6 months prior were told we can't support that. So, you know, listening to you all, especially around that adage of you can set a boundary and someone can respect that and they should respect it. And if they don't respect it, you need to maybe reconnect with someone else, right? Because we see that boundaries can be set and we can exist with them. So my next sort of more question or is framing around this act of joy as resistance, Black joy as resistance. We saw in the play that um, the main character was able to find moments of dance, of joy, where you go to the club or you go to a place and you let loose. And so I want you all to sort of talk a little bit about what that means for you. Black joy is revolutionary, because there's been such a conversation this year around the policing of Black bodies in spaces. People telling us that you need to act this way. You're laughing too loud. You're talking too loud. Your voice is too high. You're too elevated. And sometimes I myself too, because when we get together, it's joyful and we're loud and we're gadding and we're, you know, and to some people, just our being ourselves can be like, well, you need to calm that down. So let's talk a little bit about that joy as revolutionary, why it's necessary for us to reclaim our stake as being joyful and exhibiting that joy in whatever way is most comfortable for us as Black people.
So I would like to, like Black Joy is revolutionary. We saw that a lot during the summer here. And that actually, I'm not from the generations past, where, they got to live through all these different movements across the country, but we had our movement here. And that was something I had never seen before, ever in my life. And I had only heard about them or read about them or heard about them from my mother, my grandmother, and so, after all these marches, protests were over, there would be, times where we would just sit down and just like chill out, talk, cook, eat food, and people would just be like, "Come over to my house," and we would just all go over there. And honestly, I didn't necessarily knew what Black joy meant as being resistance until that space where you felt like you could just completely just like take everything off and just set it aside and just like enjoy each other, enjoy people. And so that's what really, when Black joy is resistance means to me, about like, we are at a place where, just right, you talked about the policing of Black bodies, the threat that we are a threat to everyone, and that, that we are constantly on edge and on guard. But but the joy despite all of that, and that is resistance, because in the face of all of that, we are able to still stand strong. But, again, the self-care aspect also feeds into that resistance, right? That we are still, able to sit and enjoy and, have fun with our families when we are at the end of the day. That was the really great part. At the end of the day, marching and screaming all over Rochester, we were able to still be like, okay, who's cooking right now? I know somebody is. And, just sit and enjoy for until the late hours of the evening. So
It's when you said that, I thought about it. I have a screensaver and it says, caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. It is a quote by Audre Lorde. The fact that for me, Black joy as resistance, it is that I am going to reject what's the subjugation of society. I'm going to reject society's rejection of me, and I'm going to make sure you see me in my joy. Right? This is why, like in DC, they have Black Joy Sunday, because we want people to see us being joyful, because you have characterized us in all these other ways, right? And that is not who we are. We're beautiful, we're talented, we're just glorious, right? And for me, Black joy as resistance is resisting all of the negativity of society and saying that does not define me, that does not define my people, that does not define my village. And guess what? You could take that and leave. So, I mean, that's what I think of when I think of Black joy as resistance.
Yeah, I agree. I'm good enough in my skin, and it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. And that's how I look at Black joy. And I look at it also as, and I don't know too much about the Bible. So Mel and Shani, you probably have to help me with this. Don't quote me or the audience, but, laughter and joy is healing to the bones. And so for me, again, I no longer am caring of how I have to present myself to this white society. I am who I am. I can't change my color when I sit in these rooms. So you will accept who I am. And if you don't like it, I'm no longer going to make the space comfortable for you, because I'm going to love myself. And then that pours back into my self-care. And all of that resistance stuff, that's your story you're telling and you're trying to put on me. That's all that psychological stuff that you're no longer going to have room in my mind for. So that's what I look at when I think about that.
Yeah, right. I feel that. And this week, I mean, I feel like every week we see examples of Black people minding their Black business and somebody white coming in their space. I mean, one of the biggest stories from this year was, the bird watcher, the Black man. He's watching the birds in New York, the Square Park, Times Central, or what is it? The Square Park in New York. Central Park. And it's like that alone, that it's like that has been such a vestige of white supremacy to police and criminalize Black people existing. You're in the park, you're at your house, you visiting someone, you doing whatever, selling lemonade on the sidewalk, and white people have this, not only this sense and have had this sense, but also it's been codified in law that their job is to police what we're doing when it has nothing to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
And what I say to that is that I'm not going to live in fear. If me being me present is somehow impacting you, then that is your problem, right? We saw that gentleman, that the man, he's an author, etc. And that, Ahmaud Arbery was jogging. So he was trying to self-care for him, and it results in his death.
Mm-hmm.
So I want our audience to understand what we mean when we say that no longer are we going to allow the systems to police how we exhibit the joy that we need for our self-preservation. If the music is too loud and you don't like it, then you leave. Don't ask us to leave because we've always been here, right? And so that's just sort of like my soapbox in this. And I see Shani had her mic off, so I'll let you respond.
Mama Mel, were you going to say something? I'll let you go.
Yeah, I want to say, like, I want us to make sure people understand when we're talking about Black joy, we're not talking about something in response to white people. We're talking about in response to white supremacy, to the system of white supremacy. I will twerk my fat Black behind in the middle of the Liberty pole because I want to show joy against white supremacy. Yes, that's a bad picture, I know, but just work with me, right? So, but the thing is that what I want people to understand is white supremacy is a system. And we are and the system is that system that it seeks to annihilate our very lives. And the joy and taking joy, public joy in our lives is an act of resistance and an act of self-preservation. So I just want to make sure we're really clear. This has like I could care less what white people think. I'm showing my joy to stand against white supremacy. And that's what I wanted to communicate about that.
I just like the Mama Mel said about see me in my joy, see all of me, see me. And I just love that because I think for so long we have been taught so we've been taught in multiple different ways to be small, to be quiet, right? To be safe. Mm-hmm. And, our small quietness by insulating ourselves, by insulating our emotions, our feelings, our very being, our very doings, like all that keeps us safe, even from our families, even from people that think that they're trying to protect us, right? So then when we actually start to say, see me and be big and loud and, scream, use our bodies to be tall, to be strong. And it's just, I think that is the revolutionary act right there, right? Because that is even just like, that is revolutionary for me. That has been something that I've been really practicing and being like, oh, okay, and then all of a sudden you recognize you're 10 feet tall and you're just like, okay, all right. So that I really appreciated.
Yes. I agree. The thing that with the resurrection of Michelle Morgan, there was a part in there where she said, dance, feel, heal, and repeat. Dance, feel, heal, and repeat. And so at this point in my life, I'm not going to be enslaved by this white supremacist and this, negative ideology of who I am anymore. I am going to continue to dance, feel, heal, and repeat.
And, it is so, when you said that, I thought about, and I know there's some folk on here who remember the old school house parties. Yeah. Or the rent parties.
Yeah, we know that.
Oh, we know about those, Mama Mel.
We know about house party, Mama Mel.
We know about that.
No. See, okay, y'all do know about house parties.
We did the kid and play.
We know
right,
about.
So I'm not gonna play.
I'm not house party. The movie. You talking about the movies?
No, I didn't say that. No, but what I'm talking about those old school rent parties.
Oh,
right? And you would go. And, I know y'all do them too, but what I'm saying
I guess
is
we don't know. Sorry, Mama Mel.
Sorry, Mama Mel. We don't know anything about that. We're
yes,
good.
You do. I know you do. Cause look, Shani, don't be playing. I saw you in the window of that thing weeks ago. So anyway, I was talking about we go in those parties and the purpose of the party would be to pay somebody rent, which means we all struggling and everybody put their money in and you would dance. Yeah. That you'd be jammed up. There'd be some potato salad, some fried chicken. One of the rooms have a blue light bulb in it. We a club and you would dance and you would have joy.
Wow.
Right.
I did not.
And the thing was that none of us had a lot, but everyone would put their little something in, and we would have a good time. And we knew somebody's rent was about to get paid.
See, that's the village. Awesome, that's the village.
See, now y'all say, "Oh, we know about that."
Well, listen, I thought she was talking about House Party, the movie.
I did too. I did too. And then when she said no. And then when you said no, I started.
Parties in Remington. I'm talking about house parties in the Bronx. Okay. I'm talking about rent parties that people had at their house.
Oh, see,
You know,
I
being me in the
thought,
Sorry, we don't know
Bronx,
anything about
over
that.
on Stratford Avenue, or off of White Plains Road, and we be in somebody's house because the rent needed to get paid, and everybody bring $2-3, and they would make some punch, right? And you'd have some chicken wings, some macaroni, and some potato salad or something. Probably potato salad because it was cheap to make. And you would have food, and you would dance, and folks would get paid.
Wow.
That was a whole
that's
thing.
amazing. That's amazing. See, I thought after the movie thing, I was like, oh man, maybe she talk about the spade parties with the fried fish on Friday and the spades. But that is awesome. You know, that just brings me to the village.
Yeah.
And the relationship and the togetherness that we have for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Mel, for sharing that, Mama Mel.
April, turn up your thing. So, I mean, that's what healing is. Like we started talking about it yesterday, that our healing is communal, right? This dominant culture has us believing in this rugged individualism, and that our healing is this individual thing, right? And that's part of it. You may need to be with single with a therapist, and that's part of the healing. But a whole nother part of our healing is our being together, is our communal being, us touching, transferring energy. This is why a lot of Black and brown folk are having such a hard time in COVID, because we're communal people by nature, and we touch. I mean, everything from brothers doing the dap to sisters, giving that look, the sup, all those things are about our connection for us. And they're all part of our healing and a part of our wellness. So, I mean, it's like our healing is communal. If it's a house party, a rent party, the Soul Train line, whatever it is, all of that is part of what keeps us well.
So I guess I have a question for Mama Mel then. So I just want to know, how is it that, we can continue to facilitate healing in a village, like village healing? Because I think that, being, in the community, and, I will call myself a community healer, because I know that that's my calling here. And I just am wondering what we can do to facilitate healing in the village, because I just feel like that's a constant struggle. And maybe you can answer that, because I just want to know what your thoughts are.
Well, it's hard, because what has happened to us is that we've come out of membership with ourselves. And there's a concept that they use in Indigenous communities called remembering. And they talk about bringing you back into membership with the old ways, right? And an Indigenous healer friend of mine, and we talk about, we're going to do this work. This is our thing. We're going to do the work together at remembering our peoples. And it's about, to me, I see it as bringing us back into membership with our African selves, bringing us back into membership with the old way. And people say, Melanie, it's not the old way. It wasn't always good. No, but there was things that we had then that we've lost that are part of our hurt, right? So it's about how you do it. It's about opening space, about creating space, and it takes time. I mean, I do that. Y'all, both of you have been in space with me, right? And you just create space, and you see it because we learn it by modeling it. So like we have the Black Healers Network. We open up, and we first started with the healers, and we had the Healers Place, and we started up. It was to help people, help us learn and get all these, technical things, the skills, learn new, practices. But what I created it for real was for us to have a place where we could let our hair down. Because as healers, as emotional healers, we don't get to turn off all the time. And so we needed a place where we can convene, put our hair down, and pour into one another and heal. And it was a safe space. So if we keep creating those spaces, the emotional emancipation circles, those are a safe space. We just keep creating these spaces, and over time, people will learn to trust them, because we've been hurt. We are a traumatized and hurt people. So as we learn and we begin to trust, it'll grow, and we will be able to grow this. But it's going to take time. Remember, it took the journey we're on right now is 401 years in the making. So it's not, one hot girl summer is not going to fix it, right? Because I think that's what happens with us. is that we are so used to wanting these microwave level solutions. And this is a marathon. I'm going to spend my entire, the balance of my life, and I know this already, remembering my people unto themselves. So that, because healing is the path to liberation. I know this. And I know the work will not be done when I transition to ancestors. I know this. So what can I do in that time? What I'm doing in that time is getting as many people into it so that we can grow. Because just like we're like all those things they talk, the rose that grew out of concrete. We are like, I think it's Jacob. You went to Bible school. Is it Jacob who, when he was supposed to get Leah, they kept saying, you want this and this thing will grow. And no matter what he touched, it would grow. His sheep would grow, right? You say, I'm going to get the speckled sheep. So he gets all white sheep. I'm going to take the white sheep. He gets all speckled sheep, right? We are those people that no matter what you do to us, whatever you put on us, we grow, we flourish. And so all we have to do to continue to really blow up and like, what's that, glow up, as the kids say, is to come back into membership with ourselves.
And can I add to Mama Mel's point, for your point about getting back to the membership, part of the breakdown we can't forget is attributed to the white supremacist racist system that bulldozed Black communities, that put highways through Cornhill, that intentionally worked to segregate and to really almost abolish Black communities that were strong and thriving, right? And we have countless examples of that. Black Wall Street, Harlem, so many communities that because of codified racism and segregation forced, dismantled communities. And we have a prime example of that in the Cornhill sector, the West Main sector of Rochester, so many sectors where they were thriving Black districts in this local community that don't look the same. And not only that, because of the divestment intentionally by the government on our neighborhoods, we had this push for integration that many of my elders feel was what harmed our communities. Because myself, I was bused to Brockport because my parents felt that was the only way that I would have access to a sustainable and quality education. But in doing that, I'm being taken from I'm going to a community that I don't know in Brockport from my community, Genesee, Arnett Boulevard, etc. And once you start that sixth grade, it creates a pattern that you are able to be okay further away from that internal community. I know my mother and her cousins and siblings, those two sisters raised their whole families together. So it was two single Black mother sisters they each had 6 kids. They raised them, they grew up together. And I think about, as we've moved up, glowed up, me and my cousins aren't as close as they were because we weren't raised up in the same way. The next generation, I guess, was doing a little bit better, but in that improvement is a loss in some of that community. So I'm wondering, how can we continue to glow up but not lose that sense of membership that puts us further away from each other and also pits us against each other? So now I don't trust you. I don't trust, and this is just hypothetical, but it's, I don't trust Dr. Aycock as much because we don't have that spiritual connection in ways that maybe past generations had. I love to talk a little bit more about that because sometimes I feel like, is the glow up, does that take us away further from our membership? Or how do we avoid that?
Well, what I would say to that is, because I get it, and I'm one of those people who believe that integration was not good for us. I'm one of them, right? Because what I believe in Brown versus Board, what I think was the argument that was being made by Thurman and Thurgood and all those, right, was that our stuff is not equal, right? And we want equal stuff. We want equal access to equal stuff. What got translated into the hearts and spirits of people is that I am not equal. I want to be equal. So I need to go where the equal stuff is, right? And because people will say, because I remember being in a conversation, one of the past presidents of the NAACP, Ben Jealous, he's a third generation activist, right? And he tells this story about how he went to go visit his grandmother. And his grandmother, and he was asking his grandmother, I think it was like on the eve of Obama or something like this. And he says to his grandmother, look at how far we've come. Isn't it great, my grandma? What do you think? And she said, we got what we asked for, but we lost what we had. This thing has been so profound to me in all the years. It's been years since I've heard this story. And because we didn't we started putting value on things that were other than our things, right? My grandmother used to say, the more you take on the master's amenities, the more you take on his attributes. And so what we have to do is we have to separate the amenities from the attributes, right? I'm not saying people don't get stuff, don't glow up financially, don't glow up to a home, but understand, if I'm going to build and I'm going to spend my dollar, I'm going to glow up so that April can glow up. I'm going to grow up so Shani can glow up. I'm going to glow up so Calvin can glow up. So when I make my money, I'm going to recycle my money in my community. When I big up, I'm going to big up my community. If I'm going to buy land in the city is just as good as land in Parma. And it's closer to other stuff, right? If I'm going to buy a house, and I did this my husband and I, when we bought our house 20 years ago, there were a bunch of us our age who were looking to buy houses, and they told me I was crazy. For why are you going to stay there in the city? And I said, because this is where my people are. And I said, I grew up seeing the panoply of what I could be in my neighborhood. There were doctors, lawyers. I tell the story, in my building, there were doctors, lawyers, businessmen, shop owners, and on my floor was what they called a lady of the night. It took me forever to figure out what that was. I thought it meant that she worked at nighttime. And so, no, true story. And my father and all the other men said, protect Miss Carol. That was the lady. And they said, she has friends who come visit her. If you ever hear that her friends are not being nice to her, you come get one of us. Now, as an adult, when I grew up, I said, oh, did I figured out what was going on. But what happened was Miss Carol had a child, what they call now a special needs child. And she was doing what she had to do so she could be home in the daytime with her baby, right? And make the bills. Now, I found that out way later, but at the time, we knew that Miss Carol was our neighbor. And if Miss Carol had friends who were that we thought were being mean to her, we had a list of brothers in the building we had to go get. And the brother will go get and handle the friend and all will be right with the world. But that was village, right? But what it taught me that everybody has value. Everybody works and all work has value. So when it came time for me to move and buy a house in the city, we bought a house. And I tell this story, and I'm gonna be done after this, is that my husband was sweeping in front of our house. We had been in the house maybe 3 weeks. And this little kid runs by and he says, Mr. Funchess, my husband was a teacher in the district. Mr. Funchess, what are you doing here? He said, I live here. The little boy looked at him in his face and said, why? My husband was struck dumb. Because he grew up in Chicago like I grew up in New York City. Everybody lived together, right? So he said, well, I want to be close to you. And, and the boy was like, pfft. The young man who lived in the house across the street from us, my husband was his teacher. That's village. That's how you do that thing, right? And that's part of remembering, bringing us back into membership. To say that it's okay for you to buy a house in the city, because if we buy the whole block, guess what? We control what goes down on the block. Because people are so afraid. We've been taught to be afraid of ourselves, afraid of each other. And there's a question in the Q&A box. I see it and we'll get to it. But, you know, we've been taught to be afraid of each other, but we've got to learn that I'm not going to be afraid of someone who looks like me. You got to show me something, because we will trust white people till the cows come home until they do something to us. Maybe they're one of the good ones. I will do that with my people. You have to show me that you're not for me. You know, and we've got to, the way for us to get this is reinvest in ourselves. Buy houses around other Black people. And because like I said, if we own the whole block, we control what happens on the block. That's what happens on my block. We run the block. Because we are a bunch of Black people who own these houses, and the people who want to rent, they've been renting for 14, 15, 18 years because they won't move, because the block is solid. If we choose us, if we bet on us, that's how we get back.
A word on tonight. Anything to follow up? How can you follow that up? But I want to open up, you know, Shani or Dr. Aycock at all.
You know, when I hear that, it actually makes me sad. I'll be very honest. Because I was part of the generation where we lost what we had. And so, you know, so just thinking about that togetherness, and for me, like you, Calvin, I was away. You know, I was in Fairport in East Rochester, and then I ended up coming into the city later on, you know, when I was in middle school going into high school, but still had that kind of separation mindset. And I'll hopefully you're okay with me telling the story, Mama Mel. But when I first met Mama Mel, and actually it was really through Jackie Dozier.
Yay, Jackie!
Yay, Jackie, who I talked with her. Somebody told me to talk with her. I don't know why, but they said you need to talk to her. And I spoke with her, and she created that space for me. And then she connected me with Mel. And then that's when around that time the Healer's Place started to be, you know, developed. And I just remember being in a room with all of these Black, beautiful, educated people. And I was like, hold up, time out. Let me kind of be close to this door, because I'm not the.
She
not
said
today.
in the doorway.
Now to all of that now.
Girl, look, tell the truth and shame the devil. You delivered now, baby. Come on. Jackie said, I just heard my name. Jackie, we talk about how you delivered April to us at the Healer's Place. Come on, April, tell the story, baby. Tell it.
You tell it now, Mel.
Come on, tell it.
No, because I may get tears in my eyes. No, but you know, what happened with Jackie and Mel and Jackie, so sorry that I didn't ask you for your permission to say this, but what happened was these two beautiful, strong Black women saw that I lost it and put their arms around me. And I'm still learning. Like I said earlier, I'm still learning. I'm still in the process, but they loved me through it. Mm. And even when my mindset sometimes isn't too right, and I have some of those westernized thought process, it's still no judgments. They've included me into the emancipation circles. They've included me into things where, again, I lost that with my generation with integration. Because for my generation, integration was great. You know, it was, you know, arriving. But it was so delusional, because now that I, quote unquote, what people may say arrive, is very lonely up there, because I'm the only Black one, or can barely get into those spaces.
Yep. So I resonate with that also. So I grew up in we moved around a lot as children, but the last place that we landed was Rochester, New York. So I'm originally from Buffalo. And, you know, I grew up in predominantly white schools, and I was the only Black one in my class a lot of the time. The same thing as being a physician assistant. I was the only one. And you're always the only one in a lot of your spaces. And, you know, I didn't have a lot of Black spaces growing up, except outside of my family. And so when I began to like really engage in community here in Rochester in a different way, all of a sudden, like people like Adrienne Elam and Tamara Lee, all those, and Celia McIntosh, who's here.
Oh, Celia.
Yeah, okay. So,
sorry, I shout her out.
We always dig up.
well,
dope
we're like
black
shouting
women,
out, or
sorry.
like, okay, everybody. But those folks are like, they just have opened up a door to my heart that I didn't know. And it was just a part of myself that I hadn't understood yet. And I didn't understand what that part of me was, because it's like exercising a muscle you've never used before. So that's been a real vulnerable space for me. And it's been like I said, the summer was transformational in a lot of different ways. A lot of the reasons, because like having to engage in a lot of different things, like Mama Mel working with you during the summer with some serious stuff that happened, right? And having to really see how community works on the ground level quickly, and that was a real testament to me about Village, because I had never seen that before, right? And so that
My
was,
Village is dope. Okay, I'm done.
yeah. Yeah, the Village is dope. But
No,
but
thank
either way,
you.
it was wonderful. So
No, this has been powerful, and I want to acknowledge our question in the chat, and I think this will be a great sort of final question for folks listening. So, this person, they say, for mental health clinicians who are white and want to contribute to healing our community, in addition to donating funding and working to raise Black healer and Black community voices and people within our organizations and listening to those voices, do you have any additional thoughts for ways that we can contribute to healing in a sensitive and respectful way? I'm assuming when Annalyn says we, that she's talking about other white mental health clinicians.
Yeah, she is. That's Dr. Gibson, and I know her very well, and she's talking about the white ones.
And so what I will say, because I don't want either one of y'all to say nothing. Okay, what I will say is go do your work. Go get with other white people and dismantle your white supremacy and your white privilege. A. B. Go get training. Go get training in culturally responsive practice and pay for it. C. Back up and empower voices, because it's more than just listening. It's ceding space, ceding power, ceding privilege. D. Spend your privilege wisely. And do it in a way that you understand that you are paying reparations. You are not doing charity. So if you want to know how to help, I'll start again. A, do your work. Get with other white people, dismantle white supremacy and your white privilege, and do your own work and figure out what's going on inside of you. 2, go get training. Or B, go get training. Get training in culturally responsive practices and pay for them. And don't expect Black people to train you for free. Because listen, we've been calling us lazy since we stopped being slaves. So, C, lift up voices and spend your privilege. Spend it wisely, spend it well, seed power, seed space. If you know that you and 10 other white women are making up this board, and you know that there's probably 90% of the people you serve are Black, get you and 3 of your friends and tell them that you're going to leave the board and you're going to make sure that you are replaced with Black people. And spend your privilege. Period. Period. And also, do your own homework. Stop coming to Black people and ask them, how can I help? What can I do? Go do Google. Go do Google. And then after you've learned a little, then you come to us, because we're not going to do your emotional labor for free and drop us our coin. Get Adrienne Elam a building, donate to the Avenue, get me a building so I can build a healer's place. That. Now y'all can talk, because I didn't want neither one of y'all, because y'all still in that professional positions. I didn't want neither one of y'all saying that. So go ahead.
I can't follow that.
But if it's right, say amen.
Amen. Amen.
amen.
Amen.
No, this has been so
Period.
wonderful. Thank you so much, Mama Mel, for that, and especially to uplift that. I love when you say it's not charity, it's reparations. and ceding that power, really, right? Because at the end of the day, that really is it, right? You have to step out of the way, step down, right? And
One other thing,
yeah,
and believe Black women
yes,
every time. Go ahead.
no, absolutely. I just told somebody that today. I said, believe Black women. It doesn't like whatever they say. Listen to what they say. That's all. You don't gotta question it. If it's not your experience, that's fine, right? So thank you all for again helping us with this healing. We really appreciate Jiva for inviting us into this space this evening, these two nights. We would love to create like a little bit of a resource guide. I think that all of these dynamic panelists are connected to some amazing organizations who are doing the work. So I will definitely add another thing from a task for me to work with Perion to create a list of resources for people to support, whether it's Mama Mel in that healing space. Shani Wilson is on the chair of the PAB board. Dr. April Aycock and the endeavors that she's doing. I see Jackie Dozer is on here. Dr. Celia McIntosh are on here.
Believe those Black women.
Any of these exactly are in some amazing organizations that are truly working towards dismantling and disrupting and creating a more equitable city and community for all of us. So thank you all for this. Again, if you have not listened to the audio play, please radio recognition and listen to the whole series, but especially this final play, The Resurrection of Michelle Morgan. And I'm going to turn it over to Perone. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. And I just want to say another huge thank you. Thank you will never be enough as words to express my gratitude to the four of you who are just extraordinary in every sense. And I appreciate your generosity, your candor, your truth, and your vulnerability, and everything that you shared with us last night and tonight. As Calvin said, The Resurrection of Michelle Morgan is available for your listening pleasure at recognition-radio.com. If you go to the community page, you can see replays of all of our Amplified series conversations. You can also participate in the virtual journal and the virtual memory boards, and check out the artist virtual galleries. There's so much beautiful work featuring a lot of local Rochester visual artists who are simply extraordinary. And for those of you who are still here, who haven't logged off, as you know that I'm outroing, there is a little opportunity for you. If you email dialogue@jivatheater.org with your takeaway from tonight's conversation, the first 6 people will get complimentary passes to the entire Recognition Radio Festival of Black plays. And I highly, highly encourage you to just send me one little takeaway and you will get to immerse yourself in these 4 extraordinary plays and stories. In the meantime, hope you have a peaceful healing weekend. Hope you take some tips here from tonight and find yourself some healing this evening. Another huge thank you to our incredible panel. And stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you all.
Thank you. Good night, everybody. Thank you.